Welcome back to Our World with Black Enterprise. On average, only about 50% of black students graduate from high school in 4 years, compared to 75% of their white counterparts. Who's to blame, and can these numbers be improved? Here to discuss are David Banks, president of the Eagle Academy Foundation, Kelly Goff, contributor to theloop21.com, and Dr. R. LaRue Lewis, assistant professor of sociology and black studies at the City College of New York. Thank you all so much for joining me. Now, you all have seen the numbers. Graduation rates are low, literacy rates are low. Kelly, what do you see as the root of this issue? Why are we falling so low on the education side?
Well, obviously, like most serious problems, it's a multi-pronged problem. It's not just one issue at fault. But I think that there's no question that every study has shown that the teacher that a child has, particularly when they're young, can make the difference between whether they fail or they succeed. I mean, I think the New York Times Magazine said that they examined a dozen studies that showed that when you focused on things that the schools could control, class size, per pupil spending, the one thing that made the biggest difference in the long term was the teacher that a child had. So I think we have to focus on better training for teachers, because I was reading about Doug Lemov's book, which is Teach Like a Champion. And there are a lot of good teachers out there who want to do the good thing and who still aren't succeeding in the classroom. And we also have to look at getting rid of tenure. I mean, this idea that teachers can be protected, unlike any other profession, it's harder to get rid of a bad teacher than it is to get rid of a bad doctor, which is pretty hard to believe, because there are some drunk doctors out there who still have their medical licenses, and yet it's much harder to get rid of a bad teacher than it is a bad doctor, and that's a problem.
LaRue, I mean, talk about that. The idea that we need to get rid of teachers' unions, or at least we need to get rid of teacher tenure, is at the top of the public conversation right now. What do you say to those people who say that's the issue here, that teachers are too protected?
Well, I think that it's a shiny issue, an issue that's easy for folks to relate to, but I think it's inaccurate. When we actually dig into how we're determining if teachers are effective, even the studies that you mentioned, Kelly, when we go back and look at how teachers were related, or rated, it's unreliable. And until we have a system that accurately rates teachers, we can't put all the weight on teachers.
I'm going to disagree with him a little bit, because I actually think that teachers in urban communities are facing a bit of the image problem that police officers in urban communities are, which is that there's a built-in innate level of reverence and respect that comes with the job, but we are also going to hold you to a higher level of accountability. And so for me, because people get hurt when you fail at your job, right? People get hurt. And so for me, listening to teachers' unions, leadership say that the issue is not a bad teacher when a kid fails. It's sort of like hearing a police commissioner say it's not the cop's fault because someone got beaten or someone got shot. I'm sorry, but you've made the choice to go into this profession, and we're going to hold you to a higher level of accountability. It's not the only problem. They're not the only problem, but to say that they're not part of the problem, I think, is disingenuous, no matter who.
Well, David, I want David to jump in here, because you've managed to run a successful school. Your graduation rates are through the roof. You've gotten a lot of national attention for this.
Sure.
How have you managed to do that and control for this teaching issue?
And I think more importantly, I was a teacher for a number of years in a tough neighborhood. And I will tell you that the problem you have is multi-pronged. Of course we have bad teachers, but the bigger reality, as Kelly pointed out, is most of our teachers are smart, they're well-intentioned, but many of them are ineffective. And that's where the biggest part of the problem is. Not the horrible teachers, but the teachers who really do try, but we're not properly training our teachers for the realities of the classroom that we face today.
As you all know, this is an issue that touches everybody. Everyone has a child in school or went to school themselves or is affected by the community position on education. So we went out into the community and talked to some people and got some questions from them. I'd like to you all to respond to some of them.
Hi, my name is Marie Conte, and today we are seeing a lot of black children raising babies today. So how does that affect the value of education in our community?
So how do you all deal with this idea that parents are younger and younger? Many of them are going to school and having children in school 15 and 16 years after they got out of school. I mean, what do we do with that issue, and how does it play into educational achievement?
I think what we really have to think about is education is cumulative. If I'm a young parent and I had a negative experience, when I put my children in school, my perception of school is going to be different. So we have to do that bridging work of making sure, even if you had a negative experience, we make sure you understand this school is a space that you can contribute. The school is a place where you can work with your child and develop stronger connections. All too often, we simply assume that young parents aren't good parents, when in fact we may need to be doing greater services and providing them an opportunity and skills around parenting.
The work that we've done at the Eagle Academy, we may have the greatest level of parent involvement of any school in New York City. Hundreds of parents who come out and who are actively involved. And I think where it starts is at the very top, the leadership in the school. The same way, well, and others who are like me, who really deeply care and are committed to our kids and our community and our families. And we say to our young people, there are a lot of people who don't believe in you, but at this place, we have the highest expectations for you. You have to have that same level of expectation for the parents. And when parents know that you're serious about this being a real partnership, and you will hold them accountable for that, it's amazing how parents will respond. But they've got to feel the wow from you. They've got to feel a level of passion and excitement from you as the leader in the school and the environment that you create. You create a winning environment, parents will get involved.
Well, I think that I've learned in the last couple of weeks with some pieces that I've written that the quickest way to get on everyone's not so nice list is to criticize either teachers or parents, but I'm about to do both right now.
Uh-oh.
And what I'm going to say is that one of the things we don't like to talk about so much in our community is discussing things like family planning. And I find it fascinating that you know, we will say to a kid, you can't drive a car until you're educated and you have a license to do so, but we treat it as though everyone should become a parent. Everyone. And I'm not just talking about from a class level, I'm not just talking about from an education level. Not everyone's meant to be a parent, right? And we have to start having a conversation in our community about what it takes to be a great parent and preparing to do so before you become a parent. And I think that those two things, preparing teachers and preparing parents to be ready to parent, it's going to come a long way in helping our kids.
The reality is that most of us were not prepared to become parents.
Absolutely.
I know I certainly was not, and I don't know what course I could have taken that would have prepared me.
But some are better prepared than others. Like I'm not financially ready to be a parent, right? I have the degrees, I have all this stuff on the outside. I'm not financially stable enough to take care of a child in the way that a child deserves to be taken care of.
And most of our community members are not.
In
fact, if we look at our socioeconomic status, most of us aren't in a position to take care of kids. But we have to figure out how to create an environment that is nurturing for our children.
And at the end of the day, you still have to teach those kids. Because when they have their children, prepared or not, we've still got to teach. And we have to stop creating kinds of excuses for parents and for kids. They come from this neighborhood, they come from that kind of socioeconomic background. At the end of the day, we've got to teach them.
And that's the challenge that lays in front of all of us. David Banks, Kelly Goff, LaRue Lewis, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Up next.